So I got a really great question last night on a coaching call with a rep that has just been promoted from BDR to account executive. So I'd never been in AE before. And as we know, that's a big transition. We're not just focusing on top of funnel. We're also focusing on top of funnel, but we also need to move deals all the way through the sales process. And one of the questions that she asked me was, if I was to go back to being an AE tomorrow, what would I be prioritizing? What would I be thinking about? So I want to give you I wouldn't say they're the top five, but I want to give you five things that you can be thinking about in 2024. And I'm going to bleed through some old school stuff that still works today. Then I'm going to bleed in some modern day stuff as well. So the first thing I'd start with, and I'm seeing this more so now, but as I build up my consulting and membership business, but one of the other things that it made me realize when I was actually selling, I didn't really care about making friends with customers, right? I see so many sales reps trying to get into the friend zone. So what I want to talk to you first about is item number one, which is seller brand. So the brand that you build as a salesperson. Okay, I'm not looking to make friends. I'm looking to be seen as a trusted advisor, someone that has authority and reputation in this space. Customers want to spend time with trusted advisors. And the main reason behind that is they don't want to have egg on their face. What they don't want to do, let's say you're selling a bit of technology for I don't know, 200K, 50K, £1 million, whatever it might be. What that prospect doesn't want to happen is in 9 months' time, when renewal time comes around, the CFO says, hey, talk to me about the positive business outcome since we spent 50K on this bit of technology. And they're like, yeah, it didn't really work. We didn't really get any value from it. They don't want to have egg on their face and go into that conversation. So they want to look for people that they can trust, that have authority, have a great reputation, someone that they feel confident to go behind, right? And the beauty about building a great seller brand, and when I think back over the years as an AE, I was doing this stuff subconsciously. Now it's more conscious for me because I'm focused on building a brand for my consulting business, that you'll actually get ghosted less as well, because people see you as a trusted advisor, not as somebody that they're in the friend zone with. Nobody likes to give their friends bad news, right? So think about that. The second thing is I'd be obsessed with the phone. Over 10 years selling, either as an individual contributor or building a couple of sales teams, the phone is by far the quickest and easiest way to build quality pipeline. Okay. And I don't just mean obsessed with the phone at prospecting. I mean, obsessed with the phone throughout the sales process as well. So let me give you a couple of things here. I would be blocking off 2 hours every single day to make cold calls. Yes, AEs, no one is above cold calling. Okay. You did it successfully as an SDR or BDR. That's what got you promoted. Let's not drop the ball there. Let's maintain that muscle. But the other thing is a big fat pipeline is what separates average salespeople and elite reps, right? Because they got so much opportunity around them. If they lose an odd deal here and there, it doesn't really affect them because they don't have enough around them to get to their number. When reps don't prioritize outbound, when they lose a deal, it really hurts them and it's noticeable. And what they end up doing is holding on to deals for too long. So you see reps on your team every quarter in a forecast meeting, they're talking about the same deal. That deal's probably dead and has been for a while. They just don't want to let go of it because inside a Salesforce or HubSpot, their pipeline is going to get really small, right? The other thing I'd be obsessed with the phone is when a prospect emails me back saying, I don't know, prospecting him saying, I'm not interested. I'm picking up the phone first. I'm not emailing them back. If I'm in negotiation, I'm in the business case stage and hey, they like the idea of the business case, but it needs to be 20% less. I'm not emailing them. I'm picking up the phone and having a conversation. We're selling change, right? We're not keyboard warriors. Our job is to communicate with our prospects. And the best way to do that is on the phone. So I'd be obsessed with the phone as point number two. Point number three, I'd master qualification. So I'm on forecast calls, even still to this date, with heads of sales, VPs of sales, when I'm consulting and doing some advising work. And I see so many sales reps lose winnable deals. They will lose winnable deals all of the time because they spend too much time with dead deals. Okay. So when I'm going through a forecast meeting or I'm invited to join a forecast meeting, I see sales leaders say, hey, what's the update with this one? Oh, that one's been ghosting me for 6 weeks. Or that one really should be enclosed last, or that one actually, I found out the other day they bought from a competitor, right? So that's okay if they buy from a competitor because that was a winnable deal. You just got outsold and that's okay. It's going to happen. But when there's deals that there's no burning problem, i.e. the house isn't on fire, people aren't moving things to double down in those areas, right? They're deprioritizing them and they're coming back to them when the house is burning, okay? So I'd be obsessed with qualification. 40 to 60% of deals end in no decision. I'd be looking for those opportunities in my pipeline and getting rid of them really, really, really fast. And that's going to give you more time, guys, to prioritize prospecting. When sales reps say to me, I don't have enough time, James, to make cold calls. I'm too busy in my pipeline, but they're not smashing their number. It's probably because they're not working winnable deals. They're spending time with dead deals. They just don't want to admit it. The fourth thing I want to talk to you about today is around Medic. Now, you don't have to like Medic or even use Medic, but all I would recommend doing is the most important part of the whole Medic or Medpic framework is champion. If there's no champion, there's no deal. As we all know, people aren't just waiting around to sign our contracts, right? They're not just going, oh, hey, when I take my next cold call, I'm just going to sign their DocuSign. Somebody is driving that internally for you. And if you don't have a champion, that deal isn't going to go anywhere. So there's a couple of things I want to talk to you about today around champions. So the first is to qualify them. Then you want to test them. Then you want to enable them. So let's talk about qualification real fast. And I don't want to go into this too deep here. So I'm going to stay very high level. But for example, what I'd be asking them or trying to figure out is, do they have power and do they have influence in that organization? If they don't, I'm going to struggle. I'm also going to ask or try and figure out, what does this person have to gain? Like, are they the pain center? So if they can solve the problem, what do they gain from it? Is it a promotion? Is it earnings? Is it, recognition inside the organization? Like, what do they have to gain? And if they don't have anything to gain by solving this problem, then they're probably not my champion. So I'm going to qualify them. Then I'm going to test them. So here's a really quick example. When I jump onto a catch-up call, like mid-funnel, I might say something like, hey, Sarah, when was the last time our name came up in conversation? And what were the documented actions that you need to execute? And how can I help you? If that prospect's then saying, oh, we've not spoken about it for probably like 3 or 4 weeks, you got to ask yourself, like, how important is this problem, right? So I'd be temperature testing all of the time. A lot of reps, they just qualify once and then move on. I'd be qualifying, then testing, qualify, then testing. And then the third thing that I just see very few reps do is I'd be enabling them. And I would be forcing a conversation onto the calendar with my champion once I've got technical validation after a demo, POC, that kind of thing, workshop, to build the business case. And I'd be sharing my screen on a Zoom call or a Google call or a Teams call. And I'd be saying, Sarah, let's build this business case together because we want you to hold us accountable to these metrics. We want to enable you to go and have a great conversation internally because it sounds like you really want to solve this problem for all of these different reasons. And I'd be going through a Google document and I'd be taking them through the pain, communicating the cost of inaction, the solution, how we're going to help them tackle this right at the root cause, what good things are going to happen, to how are they going to measure success, those positive business outcomes, those key business metrics, the commercial model, and then the buying team aligned with the onboarding team, a mutual action plan and an FAQ section. I'll be going through that live with the champion, enabling them, completing it with them in partnership. And then in disguise, I'd be role playing that with them. Why? Because I want to see how good they are at selling this for me internally. And I would be giving them feedback like I would be giving a rep feedback on like a call coaching session. But I'd be saying, hey, if the CFO who you said is the economic buyer, Julie, says this to you, how would you position or justify our solution in that conversation? And if they do a really good job, I'd feel super comfortable. If not, in the FAQ section at the bottom, I'd say, hey, Julie, typically what my customers say in this situation is A, B, and C. Do you think that would be good? And I'd get them to buy into it. And then I would type it into the FAQ section. So if the CFO does press on that when Julie's presenting the business case at the quarterly board meeting, she can just scroll down and say, hey, really good question. I was working with James over at, XYZ company, and he said this is what his customers usually find when that question comes up. Is this, satisfy your need? Super powerful stuff. And then the fifth thing, and by far this isn't all of them, but the fifth thing is, I see so many reps focus on the art of sales, like great tonality, great pitch, like handling objections, all of that kind of stuff, great demonstrations, product tours, that kind of stuff. But I don't see them focus on the science. And there is a science as well as the art. So most reps are running around blind, they're operating blind, they don't really know or have any real idea on what they actually need to do every single day. So if you want a copy of mine, just drop me a comment or in the comments here or drop me a DM. But what I'd recommend doing is taking your quarterly number and then reverse engineering all the way back down to what do I actually need to do every single day for those 90 days to be successful. And as long as I don't change how I sell and how I operate, and there's not like a mad crash in the economy, which doesn't happen very often, then as long as I stick to my guns, that's going to follow through really nicely. But that big number that can sometimes feel overwhelming, and I've been there with a big number on my head, I feel a lot more comfortable with it when I've worked backwards down to, I just need to make 55 cold calls a day, send 38 emails and, have one meeting a day. That feels really achievable compared to, I need to deliver 750K this quarter or whatever the number is. Right. So always work backwards and don't take what you see on LinkedIn as gospel. I see so many sales reps come to me and say, hey, James, I need to build 3 times coverage. I'm like, why 3 times coverage? What's your win rate? And they're like, oh, I saw somebody on LinkedIn say that I need 3 times coverage. I'm like, well, that's somebody else. What do you need? Let's look at your metrics. Or they say, hey, James, I need to make 40 cold calls to book a meeting. I'm like, is that what you've seen on LinkedIn? Or is that like, have you looked at your data? When we look at their data, they might need like 78 cold calls because they're, new in role or they've not been in sales for very long. So their skills aren't where they need to be right now. And they're on a learning journey. So like, stop thinking about what everyone else is doing. Double down on your numbers specifically. How does my deals flow through the funnel? What's my conversion rate at every stage of the pipeline? Then what's my average deal size? What was my target? How many deals do I need? And as a result, I can work out how many opportunities I need to generate. And then how many activities does it take for me to generate those opportunities? And then I'm just staying in my lane and I'm executing hard every single day in that smaller number. And I know as long as I don't change anything too much, I'm going to be successful. So those are just my 5 things. I'm just going to go back over them really, again, high level. Sell a brand. Don't worry about building friends. Customers aren't looking for friends. They've got plenty of those. They're looking for trusted advisors. They do not want egg on their face. The second thing, I'd be obsessed with the phone, not just from top of funnel booking meetings, but whenever I get a reply from a prospect through the sales cycle, or it's time for me to follow up on a prospect, I'd always be picking up the phone first. They're not always going to answer, but I'd want to start with the phone just in case they do. The third thing, I'd be mastering qualification. I'd want to be spending as little time on dead deals as physically possible. I'd also be asking the organization, can you show me how long it takes me to win a deal, but also how long it takes me to lose a deal? And I'd want to be making sure I'm losing deals really, really fast, because that means I can spend more time on finding new opportunities and spending quality time winning winnable deals. The fourth thing, no champion, no deal, regardless if you like Medic or not. It's so true. If you don't have a champion selling for you internally who has a vested interest in your success and they have power and influence, that deal is probably not going to go anywhere. And then the fifth thing is science. It's not just about the art, how you sell. It's also about the data and understanding what do you specifically need to do. Not anyone else on LinkedIn, not anyone else at your company, but you specifically. How many calls, emails, how many first meetings, how many demos, how many business cases, how many workshops, how many procurement processes do you need to run to be successful? Get deep in the data and life will get so much easier for you. If you want a copy of the prospecting or the reverse engineering tracker, drop me a comment, drop me a DM. Hope this video is useful. Let me know if there's anything else that you would prioritize over my 5 things. Like I said, this isn't an exhausted list, but these 5 things can be super powerful in 2024 for new AEs and tenured experienced AEs.